Hello and welcome to Breaking Late, a motorsports podcast. I'm your host Michael, and with me is JD. How's it going?
Not too bad, Michael. I enjoyed a good night's racing last night. Got up in the middle of the night and watched the Montreal Grand Prix, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was very early.
Yeah.
Being in Australia, it was about a 3:30 in the morning start, so it was a rise and try and stay awake for the race. But it was a good race. It was nice and exciting. There was lots of stuff happening.
Yeah, there's a different strategy and stuff like that. It was really interesting to see Ferrari. Don't know if they're trying to take it to Mercedes to try and make them follow them or what was going on there. But they went with a two-stopper when Mercedes stuck with their one-stop strategy for Hamilton and come up trumps. The Ferraris couldn't catch him in the end.
It was good. That was the second win on the trot for Hamilton, so he must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, he must be starting to build some confidence again. He's right back in the championship. I think it was only, 3 meetings ago? Before they had their crash. He was quite a long way back, and now he's already right back in it, like 9 points to the difference now, so it's getting really close up the top there.
And Hamilton was showing some good pace and strength throughout the whole weekend, even at the start of qualifying practice, he was really good in FP1.
Well, he was fastest in every session, so FP1, FP2, FP3 and qualifying, but he didn't, and he managed, but he didn't get the quickest lap of the race. That was Rosberg, as he put on the late set of tyres and charged through. But yeah, that was he nearly did the clean sweep with the race win and the fastest lap, so hasn't been done in a while.
It's definitely starting to look like the old Hamilton again.
Yeah, definitely.
Something that Nico really needs to look out for, because we said this last week that I think if Hamilton gets the lead of the championship, he can run away with it.
I was really surprised with how much Nico's been struggling. Like I could understand in Monaco he struggled with the tyre temp and stuff like that, and they did have that problem again in Montreal. That the temperatures dropped, so all the data that he had from practice and qualifying and all that didn't really move across to the race and stuff like that for tyre temp and getting those tyres in their working window. But it was a bit of a struggle.
He really did struggle all weekend. We'll get to this a little bit later in the show, but he had that bit of the start where it wasn't the greatest start of the race. But
yeah, the contact.
Just throughout the race, he just didn't have the pace. We finished second to Hamilton nearly every time this weekend. All the bugs that seemed to be plaguing Hamilton at the start of the season are sort of jumped over to the number 6 car.
Yeah, it was another one of those races that proved Mercedes can lead a race, but they can't.
They can't move through a field.
Yeah, they struggle to move through the field, even with that far superior engine. They're bad and dirty air. They're just like they go from immortal car to a mere mortal.
Yeah.
Just one or the other in the bunch. Yeah, Michael, what do you think? Massa in practice there, another hit with the wall.
Yeah, that was a big hit right at the start of FP1. Caught a little bit of it. I think it stayed up. It was about 12:30 at night or something when it came on. Watched it. It sort of come out of the blue. Like, no one really expects a crash, but it must have been a DRS failure or something along the lines, because you can see he's just come at the end of the straight, which is a DRS zone. Hit the brakes. I don't know if it closed as quick or something, but it definitely unsettled the rear of that car, and he slid into that wall with pace. The whole back of the car was gone.
Yeah, I did read a bit about it. Williams come out and backed him up. He himself, he said that he felt that something went wrong with the car. Williams said that the DRS didn't close properly. It partially closed, so when he come up to the end of the straight there, went for the brakes, and he just didn't have the rear end stability, so it's just gone around and backed it straight in the wall. A lot of damage, and made him sit out that session, and probably costly track time for him.
And top work for the guys and girls back at Williams to manage to get that car back together for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, agreed. Same with, who was it, Magnussen's car?
Magnussen in FP3.
Yeah, they did great work to get them back out. Obviously, Magnussen skipped or missed qualifying.
Yep.
But it was impressive to see that effort that they could
turn around to get it back out.
Yeah, that's a full new tub on that Lotus, so it's a big effort.
Renault.
Renault. Yeah, well, there you go. In the Renault. Sorry, there's a full new tub in the Renault, which was a great effort for them to get it back out there and in the race properly.
So, JD, a lot of the teams came to Canada with a few upgrades on their cars.
Yeah, all the Renault power units now. Red Bull, both their cars have one in it, and also both the Renault cars now have the upgraded power unit, which they really need at that sort of track with the long straights and stuff like that. It's a really power sensitive circuit. So yeah, that was impressive. What do you think of the Vettel's new turbo situation there. They seemed to get a bit more power out of it. It wasn't struggling as much.
He did a really good job in qualifying. He had that extra bit of pace this weekend, and he looked fairly confident in the car all weekend. There was a few times in practice he did get really, I think he was at third most of the time, behind the two Mercedes. The car seemed to hold up well. There was no reliability issues, because we did have the Ferrari 2016 spec Ferrari engine last meeting in Monaco go on the Sauber, so we do know they're a little bit
well, yeah, they're blowing a few up this year already. They haven't been the most reliable,
but I think the upgrades are definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, well, Toto Wolff was basically said that the new Ferrari turbo brought the Ferrari engine up to spec with the Mercedes. Like, they're on a level playing field now. They don't have an advantage anymore.
The gap between Mercedes and the rest of the field is definitely closing, which as a fan is great to see, because you're getting a lot more competitive racing. You're not getting your 1-2 Mercedes finishes. It's getting a little bit harder to predict.
It is. It seems to be every track we go to as well. It's a toss-up where the Ferrari is going to be faster than Red Bull, or Red Bull's going to be faster than Ferrari. So far this year, I think Vettel's been fast one meeting, slow the next, fast one meeting, slow the next, fast one meeting, slow the next.
Yeah, it's just been a bit up and down for him, but let's hope he gets it all back together and gets a bit more consistency. We're going into a new track next weekend, which that's a clean slate for everyone. We don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, no data for any of the teams so far, Michael, so it'll be really interesting to see who can find their setup, because it might not come down to who has the best car, but who has the best setup, gets in the groove quickly there. So that'll be really interesting. I know they've all got great people working on it, but it'll really see which drivers find it. It's another street track as well, so it's going to have a lot of concrete around it. Which drivers can push it and gain those little gains out of the actual driver and themselves as well. What do you think about the look of the Baku track?
The new track in Baku it's all right. I think it looks very Singapore-esque.
Yeah, I guess it's another street track. It looks a bit. I can't wait to see it. Like, obviously we can only see the maps and stuff that they've put up and that, and a few of the pictures. But to actually watch the cars go around, it's going to be really interesting. It's got a few slow corners, but it's also got that really high speed.
Yeah, well, we were looking at the map before, and we believe from about turn 19 down to turn 1,
it's going to be flat.
It's going to be flat. It's just straight 19 and 20. I think there's 20 or 21 turns in the circuit.
20,
but either way, the last few are very small. You'll be flat out of 19 all the way down to the braking markers of turn 1.
It'll be interesting to see how Mercedes go with their brake temps and stuff like that. I don't know, they've struggled over the last couple of years with brake temps in some places. If they get stuck in the pack, if like Rosberg doesn't get a good start or Hamilton doesn't get a good start, might really punish them there.
Yeah, well, they do need to definitely improve their driving in traffic for the car.
Yeah, I think the drivability is just not there for them with their dirty air.
We'll continue a little bit on with the Baku circuit. The back section of it, I believe about turn 6 or 7, you've got a really tight, almost hairpin-like right-hander, I believe, going into a chicane. That should be interesting. There's
a few interesting corners. There's that one that turns back on itself as well. So, it will be really, really interesting.
I think it's just a big unknown. I can't give you a prediction of anything on that track.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one. I think Mercedes will be definitely the pace setters. Obviously, I guess Ferrari's up there with power as well, but it looks like it might be a bit more of a mixture, that track, where Mercedes have good downforce and good power, so it is quite a good. You'd have to put them back up there. They're still the class setters, but yeah, it would be interesting to see if Red Bull can get up there. I think they might struggle a little bit on that long straight, but I think it might be a repeat of what we've just watched from Montreal.
So, JD, qualifying on the Saturday, did you get to catch much of that?
No, I didn't. My internet's been down, and I stream it all. So I've been watching most of it on my actual mobile phone, which has been a bit frustrating. The qualifying, it was interesting.
There wasn't heaps to take away from it.
Saints clipping the wall and tearing two corners off it. And
I think that was just a bit unlucky. I did show you qualifying before we started this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You did raise a good point that you look at the hits that, because Carlos was not the only one to hit the Wall of Champions this weekend. You had Vettel skim it, as he put it in his words. He took the lacquer off the rim, and I like Sky F1 going, I don't think they use lacquer anymore, but maybe Ferrari doing something. Then you had, I believe, Palmer hit the wall, Ricciardo touched the wall. Most people gave it a little brush, but Saints he more slid into the wall, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think he was moving sideways too fast.
You really do see the whole car kind of ripple once he hit it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that broke the rear arm, tilted the back wheel the wrong way, and as he just went to accelerate out, he just drove more and more, and the whole way along down the straight, smashing into the wall and bringing his qualifying to an end.
Yeah, red flagging the session. So it was unlucky. They're obviously all pushing it to the edge, and unfortunately, he found the edge and went slightly over it.
Yeah. Well, the red flag did help out a few teams. There's a few, because that did happen earlier on in Q2.
Yeah, it was actually. It was, I think, their first run in Q2. So
Williams are one of the teams that never made it out, but then left straight away, so that gave them a bit of advantage. They didn't have to scrub an extra set of tyres. But really, it was just qualifying, like we said before. There wasn't heaps to take away from it. The usuals were out in Q1. Q1. It was good to see Alonso getting back into Q3 again. He gave his little yep when he got into there.
yeah, he got helped a little bit there as well. Button gave him a bit of a tow down the straight.
Yeah, Button had that small lock-up too, which cost him, because Button wasn't much off getting into
Q3 either.
Q3, so it would have been really good to see both the McLarens into Q3.
Yep.
But it is what it is, and Alonso was the only one to get through. So Q3 results, you had Alonso coming home in 10th. He was still a bit off. I think he was 0.4 of a second off. Hulkenberg qualified 9th. Massa and Bottas, there wasn't too much between the two Williams. Really wasn't much at all.
Only 1/10.
1/10 off of it. Raikkonen and Verstappen, once again, they were very closely matched as well. That's another 1/10. Ricciardo edged out Verstappen a little bit to claim 4th in qualifying at a 1:13.1.
It's been really interesting, actually, that Ricciardo Verstappen battle through Q3. He just seems to pip him every time. He's always got something for Verstappen when he gets to Q3. Like that's a 3/10. So that's not huge, but it's definitely means something. It'll be something that Verstappen will be getting used to the car still, I think, as well. But it'll be bugging him, and he'll be trying to look through the data, trying to work out where he can get that.
Where you can make up that time. Vettel did a really good. He got a 1:12.99, which he wasn't too far off Rosberg. That's another 1/10. And then Rosberg and Hamilton, there's just a bee's dick between both of them.
Yeah, well, that's really shows how close the Ferrari power is getting to the Mercedes. It's a big jump from Rosberg down to Raikkonen with the old turbo setup.
Yes.
It's a massive jump. And Hamilton and Rosberg, good to see it really close.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really tight qualifying for them. So it's really good to see. Even in Q2, it's exactly the same. Like, there's nothing in it.
So, JD, the start of the race. Do you have any opinions on the Hamilton and Rosberg contact into turn 1? Well, just past turn 1, I think it is.
As a matter of fact, I do, Michael.
You do have some opinions on a racing incident?
Yeah, look, it was a tough one. I think Rosberg needs to learn that Hamilton's not going to give him room. We've discussed this before.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thought it was murder when Rosberg paid Hamilton the same respects that Hamilton pays him. But, yeah, he went and tried to go around the outside. Hamilton's never going to let you go around the outside. Hamilton did say he had understeer.
He had a little bit.
We watched the in-car footage. There is a little bit of understeer there, but he definitely wasn't trying very hard to give him a track, a car width on the exit of the corner there before turn 2. He wasn't going to allow that, which ruined, essentially, it ruined Rosberg's race. It put him into a race with a lot of cars that he didn't need to be in.
What's your opinion on Rosberg's entry back onto the racetrack?
There's another dodgy one, Michael. There's nothing he could really do about it. He didn't have much choice. He did jump back out, and I wouldn't call it a dangerous position, but
he did get swamped.
He got swamped, and there was Ricciardo and a couple of other cars had to make fairly evasive moves to get around him because they were coming they were flowing around turn 2 on the exit. Next minute, a slow car popped out in front of them.
Well, it cost Ricciardo a bit. He was unlucky on what side he encountered Rosberg. He got put around the outside. But
He was definitely.
Ricciardo already got into a compromised position when Hamilton and Rosberg had the contact, forcing Ricciardo to basically take a bit of a more evasive action again, allowing Max just around the outside of him to get that position in, and then with Rosberg jumping out in front of him again, not intentionally, but it did. That just definitely slowed him back down.
Yeah, I think Ricciardo was going quite hard into turn 1 as well. He pinched the inside brake, which made him run a little bit wide. I don't know if he kind of got caught up in what was happening with Rosberg and Hamilton, and he just got a little bit trapped, but which then gave Max the chance to run the inside line through turn 1, then the outside line on turn 2, and then Rosberg popped out right in front of him right when he didn't need it, because he would add the commanding line into the next turn 3. So kind of put him in a compromised position, and he just had to sort of get out of the throttle and go around him and slot into fourth position.
Once again, that's just racing. That happens.
It is, and even Rosberg took it on the chin when he was doing the press conference after the race.
He was a little pissed.
Oh, he was pissed, but he himself he basically said, well, if I'm going to do that, it's my job to make it so that I'm in the commanding position for track space.
Because he got up right beside him, but he didn't really
No, he
make
was
the extra move to get further in front to really command that track position.
Exactly. Michael, what do you reckon at the start of Vettel?
Oh, that was amazing. He was just off like lightning. That start, I don't know if he just got a really good start off it, and Hamilton's start was poor, and then it was magnified by Vettel's start. Vettel got that Ferrari off the line, and he was gone. By turn 2, he was halfway up the track.
Yeah.
In front of everyone else.
I think it was a bit of column A, column B as well. He got a good start, they got bad starts.
But this is something that Mercedes haven't really managed to perfect now with the new starting regulations, with more under driver control, the single clutch.
Single clutch, and drivers have to do a lot of their stuff on the fly now instead of having a couple of engineers sitting there and going, all right, this much traction available, yada, 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 this much slip.
Hamilton said after the race in a post-conference that he believed he heated his clutch up a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think he was guessing at that stage. I guess they'll go back and analyse it, but that was his view. He had a bit of too much clutch slip.
Ferrari did their usual pit stop. I don't know why Ferrari do this sometimes. They get in a commanding position where they can run the race, and they like to take the gamble.
Yeah, it was interesting. They're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. If they, watching that interview we're watching with Vettel and Hamilton admitted that they were going to go the two-stopper as well if Ferrari hadn't gone the two-stopper. Obviously, that would have been to get Hamilton some clean air, and Vettel was already in clean air. Interesting to see. They just put themselves in races that they didn't need to be in. So he got behind slower cars, which then he had to... it wasn't lapped cars, it was just slow cars on the lead lap that were not going to just hand you a position.
No,
some of them are not going to fight that hard, but they're not going to just hand you the position. And I think it kind of ruined his race. They did jump on that virtual safety car pretty quick, and
slightly unlucky that was called in a little earlier, but either way, like I've said to you before, there was no other safety car throughout the race, so everyone was going to have to pit under green flag.
Yeah.
So you were going to lose that. They managed to minimize the loss. I think they cut it down. They only lost 10 seconds instead of the 16 seconds a normal pit stop takes.
Yep.
So that is still a plus for Ferrari.
Definitely.
It was a good call. Unfortunately, the tyres couldn't last and they had to make that extra stop. And I think it was just the second stop that really hurt them. A lot of teams couldn't pull off the one stopper.
Yeah, I think I was talking about about this before, Michael, was a lot of people were struggling. They were in dirty air and they were chewing tyres, where Hamilton, after he got freed, this is one of the problems with the Ferrari strategy, was they gave him command because they gave him free air, and that Mercedes is quick. When it's out in front, it's a quick car. Mm-hmm. It looks after its tyres and it's quick. They basically handed Mercedes exactly what they needed to make Hamilton fast.
I think Ferrari just wanted Mercedes to copy them. They wanted to try and we'll pit in first, and then next lap Hamilton's going to have to follow in and copy us. They didn't. They knew once they got the track position, free air, then they can command the race, and they knew they could do a one stopper.
Yeah,
and they did. And in the end, he pulled it off.
There's a big gap still too. It was 6 seconds or something at the end of the race. So
Hamilton's been doing a really good job lately making tyres last.
Yeah, I agree.
He did it again at last weekend at Monaco, and he did it again this week. So yeah, it's something you've just got to keep in the back of your mind, that he's making these tyres last a lot longer than most other people. He's getting the results that he needs.
Yeah, I think it's also come down again. In Monaco, he got gifted free track. Yeah, he got gifted not following a car. So Ricciardo's tyres, by the end of the race, Ricciardo was a lot faster, but by the end of the race, he had no tyres left on the thing because he'd been following too close to...
Just like Vettel in this race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah,
Not
exactly.
Not just like it, but very similar.
Similar, yeah. Vettel murdered his tyres, passing everyone and getting stuck in dirty air, where Hamilton just went out the front there and plugged in what lap times he needed to, exactly what he needed to do. He drove a great race, didn't make mistakes. So, and it was actually interesting. What do you think? Like, I kind of expected Vettel to come in and be a little bit down, but What do you think, Michael? He come in, he was pretty jubilant, like really happy.
Vettel and Hamilton seem to be best buds. Like, Hamilton's already ditched Justin Bieber and now using Sebastian Vettel as his new best mate. I mean, it was good sportsmanship between them. After the race, while they're still driving, they both gave each other the thumbs up. In the, I think what we call it, the driver cool-down room before the podium, they were making jokes. There was the post-race interview on Sky, which we watched, which I'll link in the show notes, where Vettel just comes and crashes Hamilton's interview.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that was really good to watch. As a fan, that was good to see the drivers actually getting along. Not so much in Formula 1, you don't really see them fighting, but it was just good to see natural chemistry.
Yeah, back and forth from them, yeah.
I think the reason why those two are getting on quite well is they're very similar. They would not work in the same team. If you put those two in the same team, you won't get this. But because they're in similar positions now, that they work well in separate teams and they get on well together now. You put them in the same team, put them in the same colours, you'll butt heads.
I think at the moment it's really interesting too, because I think they're enjoying being pushed by each other. Hamilton seems to really thrive on that. He in Monaco was really happy that Daniel Ricciardo had pushed him the whole way to the end of the race. And now in this race, he, when he's like, oh my God, you flew at the start, blah, blah, blah. He was really happy that he had a race on his hands instead of just going out and punching in the laps he needed to do.
I'm just here to do this number, and I get to the end and I get a trophy.
Yeah.
But no, it is good to see that he's enjoying his racing. At the start of the year, he was a little bit mopey when he wasn't winning the races and had a lot of the car issues. He got that win the other week. Now he's got 2 wins. He just seems to be revitalized and enjoying his racing.
Yeah, Mercedes seem to be fixing his side of the garage now. He didn't have any dramas. They're making the right calls. It all seems to be working hunky-dory for them.
So Jenson Button, he unfortunately his car caught on fire. Or his engine gave way.
Yep. So it was an old engine. They'd run it for a fair few meetings. So probably not too much of a surprise, but a bit of a shame.
Jenson he's not having a good run. But he always tries to, like when you see him in the interviews, he's always like, well, what can you do? That's the cards that I've been dealt. I'm just playing the hand I've got.
Yeah, you can see the frustration on him, but he doesn't want to show it too much. You can see it anyway. But he really tries to remain positive for the crew back at the workshop and stuff like that, to try and keep them positive. It's a real shame. He's a likeable fella, and it's hard to watch them go through this.
Let's be honest, he doesn't have that many years left in F1.
No, I think Jenson, he's a realist.
I think he only signed a 12-month contract.
I think he's still fast. Put him in against a lot of these young guns and he would be just as quick as them. But people don't want to hire a driver for the next 1 year. They want someone that they can lock into a contract and continue to have a great driver for them. And I don't think Jenson's at that stage of his career where he can, 1, ask for a multi-year contract, and 2, fulfill that. Like he's probably going to want to retire if they don't start. He's not going to want to bash around at the back of the grid for the rest of his F1 career. So if they don't start getting that McLaren up the front next year, I think he might be choosing to retire.
Another person who we've had a quick talk of, Massa. He's struggling a lot lately, and he's another one of those drivers that's sort of coming to the end of his peak.
Yeah, I think at least with Button and Alonso, you can see they're quite equal, and we know Alonso's a great driver. Mm-hmm. We know Button's a great driver, but they're really quite equal. Bottas and Massa, Bottas pretty much
pantses him.
Yeah, every practice, every qualifying, every race, he's, not every time, but I'd say 85% of the time he's faster.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that in F1. Like, I know Massa brings other stuff to the team with
he's had
knowledge.
A wealth of experience.
Yeah, knowledge and professionalism of how he runs himself and stuff like that. But it's interesting. Do you reckon, Michael, he's going to have, another year in him, 2 years? What do you reckon he's going to do?
Massa, I don't know if he's got huge amounts of appeal left to the teams beyond maybe getting a 12-month extension for next year when they've got these new regulations. The teams might want to keep a more experienced driver on while they're testing these few things that a rookie might not fully get their head around, and relaying the information back better to the team so they can understand what these new the new cars and specifications are going to do. I struggle to see Massa being in a team after 2017. you've got the likes of Pascal Wehrlein, maybe Harriento. You feel the younger drivers in
Well,
the...
you got Carlos Sainz that's going to be
Carlos
looking.
Sainz, he's definitely going to have to get a new drive, and Toro Rosso don't really do after 2 years.
Yeah, traditionally you're either going to make the step up to the big team or you move along.
But yeah, I just think, after 2017, maybe Massa won't be in it anymore, and we won't get to see him and his brother in the pits. I mean,
Yeah.
Massa has probably one of the most supportive brothers out there.
Yeah, the whole family, his kids always around and stuff like that as well. It's cool to see. And Massa's a likable fellow around the grid. A lot of people like Massa.
Oh, I
And a lot
think
of the
he's a good
teams like
driver. It's coming to the stage a bit like the Rubens Barrichello stage. Like, there's got to be a time where your time's come.
Yeah, exactly. He's not showing that shine anymore. Maybe he can prove us all wrong next meeting, but yeah, he just doesn't seem to have it anymore.
JD, what's your opinion on the final turn onto the straight and the drivers sort of cutting it as such? Vettel was doing very good to just clip the yellow curb, and then he knows he can go straight.
Yeah, it was. When I was watching the race, like they point out, there's a bollard if you don't hit the policeman curve or whatever they call it, the yellow curb, you've got to go to the left of the bollard, and it slows you down quite a lot when you run onto the straight. And I watched Vettel a couple of times have a slight lock up, and he wasn't going to make the corner. And just at the last minute, he'd turn out of it and cut across the end, like the center of the corner. But he'd make sure he just touched the yellow policeman curve, and it was just enough. So he wasn't breaking any rules, and he could have a nice straight run onto the straight. I don't think he was gaining anything from it, but I definitely think he was helping the fact that he wasn't going to have to go to the left of the bollard and lose a whole bunch of time.
Just a bit of racemanship there.
Yeah, well, he was pushing really, really hard, trying to catch Hamilton. It was really interesting actually watching. Probably, for that race, I guess there was not a whole lot of things going on towards the end of it, but it was really interesting to watch him, how hard he was pushing. He was making mistakes all over the place because he was doing qualifying laps on old tyres, and
He had
really
a few
interesting.
lockups. Rosberg had a few mistakes throughout the whole race as well.
Yeah, Rosberg
just had a race that you're just going to forget about.
Yeah, it's that. What do you think? The no team radio help reared its head again. What do you think about that, Michael?
I don't care if the teams are telling them information. Maybe not to the point where you need to know what every tyre, every car is driving on and how many laps old they are. But when your driver's going on the radio, what are all these alarms and are they real? And Tony get a response back, the alarms are real. Like, maybe a little bit more information. And I think this is something that the Formula One itself has caused this issue. They broadcast the radio messages on the TV, and that's the way the fans know that they get these messages to tell them what to do. And then the fans go, oh, their drivers are just there sitting there listening to a message, and I have to do this lap time, or I have to do this, and they're not really doing the work. If they didn't want them to know about that, just don't broadcast those messages.
Yeah, they're a pretty complex car. I think people think of it like a 80s car and stuff like that, where you probably had an oil pressure light and a RPM gauge, water temp gauge, and
If they
not
stop
that many
working,
gauges.
you can just tap on it and it'll work.
Yeah, not that many gauges to be watching, but these guys they've got all these codes on their steering wheels. They've got a lot of stuff going on in the cab. Yeah, it's just interesting. I would have liked them to be able to say, oh, just, you've got warning code C, blah, blah, blah. We need to call front brakes or whatever. It's a warning for this.
Yeah.
Maybe not tell him how to fix it, but at least tell him,
A bit more than the warnings are real.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a brake temp warning, and you've also got a water temperature warning, because he obviously was having a bit of panic because he couldn't see anything on his steering wheel other than warnings popping up everywhere because he was in dirty hot air from the car in front. It's something I actually miss. Like, don't tell the drivers how to drive. Don't tell them where to brake. Don't tell them, you need to take a different line or any of that stuff. Fair enough, ban all that. I think, we need that banter back and forth to the teams.
We had Kimi have a little bit of banter.
Yeah, good old Kimi telling it how it is.
What was it?
Take it easy,
Take
Kimi.
it easy. I can't take it easy and keep them behind.
Yeah. So Kimi was up to his old tactics.
But Kimi's always good for that. Back onto Rosberg for a second. That was a big spin on the final corner.
Yeah, it was. It was. He was lucky not to stall the engine. That would have been really detrimental to his championship.
Well, he was lucky that he didn't make contact with Verstappen, and his car didn't stall. He didn't lose the position. He had to go for it. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, exactly. And he was just going hard. It was interesting listening to him after the race. He had a few problems with the fact that he was going to run out of fuel if he kept pushing every lap to try and pass Verstappen.
Which is something I haven't had to think about the fuel in a while. At the start of the new year, I think it was 2014 with the new regulations, fuel was the big talking point. Oh, everyone's going to run out of fuel. Everyone's conserving. Last year, everyone sort of got on top of it, and then I haven't really worried about people going, oh, how much fuel have they used? Just like, yep, they've got 100 kilos, they'll go nuts, they'll leave a litre in the
Yeah,
car.
it's amazing how far advanced they've become, hey, Michael. Like, some of these cars, they're not even going out on track with, they're allowed 100 kilos of fuel on
They
board.
don't have to put that in the car.
Yeah, and some of these cars aren't even going out on track with 100 kilos on board. It's really interesting.
Really confusing for them to next year go, we're bringing refueling back. What's your opinions on that?
To be honest, like, I know it's going to make a lot of strategy stuff open up, and it might open up some really interesting racing and stuff like that. I thought they took it away for a safety issue, and now they're bringing it back. Like, fair enough, they're not using methanol anymore, but something that was deemed to be unsafe, take it away, and now they're bringing it back in. It just, I don't know, it
It is a little weird.
It seems a bit backwards. I know they're trying to make the racing better and whatnot, but
It will be nice to see, like, say a car come in, they can pit for fresh tyres, get that extra splash of fuel in there, and really power home. Like, you can attack at 110%.
yeah, I wonder how they're going to do it, because their pit stops are so short these days.
Well, they'll be longer.
Yeah, how much longer, but it'll be really interesting to see. What's your thoughts on Verstappen? He did a really good job at keeping Rosberg behind. We've talked about Rosberg's spin, but what do you think about his driving there?
Oh, he did really well. He recovered well from Monaco, which I was a little worried about how much of a hit that would take to his confidence. But with the Renault power plant in his car, he used it fairly well to his advantage. He did keep Rosberg at bay throughout the whole time. Rosberg was with the fuel and having to look after his tyres and stuff, but in the end that doesn't really matter. Verstappen come home with the points. I want to see him at a few more races before I can fully judge where he's at in Red Bull. He's still new. This was only his third race in the team, so he's still got to learn up. He probably won't know everyone's name at the workshop yet. Give him a few more races, let him get settled in, and let's see where he's truly at with this Red Bull.
Yeah, I was impressed. He managed to put that Red Bull right in the spots where Rosberg needed to be to pass him, and it showed some really good racing tech there. Like, he did a really good job of it.
He definitely has a racing mind. Like,
Yeah, he's a natural.
Yeah,
He is a natural, and he's already showing promise, and I think he's already performing as good as Danny Kvyat was for Red Bull, if not better. So he'll be a real challenger for Daniel in the near future, I think. The other one that did a great race was Bottas and the Williams team. They really managed to pull a good race out there
he was really happy on the team radio for the win. He was
for the win.
was like a win for him. He's for third. He was really ecstatic on the radio. He was thanked everyone. I think he needed this. He's been in the wilderness for a little bit.
Williams in general have been. I was really disappointed last year with their pace. And I was worried that this year that they were going to look so much at 2017 car that they would stop developing this car and they wouldn't go anywhere. But it was really good. They were setting fastest laps at the end of their first stint, when people had already gone on to a new set of super softs and ultra softs.
Tires.
And he was on 16 lap, 20 lap old tires.
I think this is good for Bottas because he's another one that we don't know if he's going to stay at Williams, and to get a few more podiums and stuff under his belt is just increasing his value as a driver for the other teams.
Yeah, it's going to make him stronger and put him in a stronger position. He's doing everything right anyway.
He is.
Like, we were talking about it earlier, but he's doing everything right. He's out qualifying and out racing his teammates, and that's all he can do. If the Williams isn't fast enough to win races, well, it's not fast enough to win races, but he's doing everything else right. So, Michael, looking forward to the Crown Bet Triple Crown Hidden Valley round of V8 Supercars?
Yeah, that's it's counting down the days now.
Yeah, only 4 days till practice.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll be down there and hopefully grab some sound clips and some stuff. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Should be good. They've changed the gearing now in the cars, allowing a top speed of around 275 k's an hour down the straight.
Yeah, it should be really interesting because it's been a track that
They've topped out a lot.
Yeah, the cars struggle. Like, if you get a really good run onto the straight, everyone's going to hit the same top speed, regardless whether you got a good run onto the straight or not. You're on rev limiter before the brakes. So it made it really hard to pass, and they think that this might actually help them a little bit.
Definitely should be good because it's not good for the cars to be hundreds of meters going down on limiter.
Yeah. So it's that'll be interesting to see how much effect it makes. Should bring the lap times down a little bit, I assume.
The thing that I'm really looking forward to this weekend is walking into the Hidden Valley circuit and hearing the cars.
Yeah.
Especially after having such a, seems like forever since we've seen a V8 supercar race, which has been 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's something I love, the pop on the gear change and everything like that. It's something I look forward to every year. It gets the blood pumping.
I've had to take that Friday off work because you can hear the cars from my work. I'm not that far away from the circuit.
Yeah.
And
same.
generally I'm standing outside of the warehouse and just be like listening to the cars go by, and I just go, nope, I'm going home. I'm going to the track.
Yeah.
And so this year thought I had definitely taken the Friday off.
Yep, same here. Penciled it in the book. I'm gone.
Yeah, don't call me, I won't answer. But yeah, with this track, or with the round being here, we do have a few things planned. Won't go into them too much detail. We do have a small competition coming up, which you'll hear next week. We're trying to get some interviews lined up. If we can get them, we can get them. If not, we'll still give you our perspective of the whole race. It's going to be a big weekend to get this race, as
Formula
well as the Formula One.
Yeah.
And it's going to be your birthday.
Yeah.
And
I
so
feel
we're
like taking
gonna be-
Monday off too.
We're going to be drinking.
Yeah.
So qualifying will be watched on the phone at the track.
Yeah, I'll be definitely looking forward to this weekend and getting back involved. Get down there and smell that race fuel again. And that's all we have time for this week on Breaking Late.
Yep, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Yep, hit us up on Facebook if you got any feedback or things you want us to talk about.
Yep, we're on Twitter, and you can send us an email as well at breakinglate@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yep, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye. I can't remember what we're talking about. It's too many rums.